Yeah, okay.
There you go.
Okay, cool.
So from now on, we'll at least have the Zoom
Mm,
recording.
yes.
I won't repeat all my stuff, but
Yeah.
by the way, the background behind me is the North Shore of Oahu. It was a photograph that I took, and I thought it could use a little bit of a little bit of a painterly type of effect. So I applied that.
So
And those are real stars in the sky behind me. So it's civilization. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, Dom, do you want me to screen share while you're working on trying to get YouTube?
yeah, yeah,
Let me
yeah.
see if I can. Let's see.
Oh, interesting. If I want to start with the, yeah, it just have a lot of things that is unpredictable. Streaming software. I need a software so I can streaming on YouTube. I couldn't just directly share and stream, which is very interesting.
I I I go to another group from time to time that does the YouTube streaming. I don't know how
Hmm.
they've got it set up.
Yeah, yeah. Let me try the StreamYard again because last time it works, right? It's just this time it's just not really working. And I set up like just like last time and it's just not working. Yeah,
So
recording.
Jacqueline, you're sharing your phone screen right now, is that correct?
So this is something I've been seeing a lot of this week. A focus on AR and AR in marketing. Hardly anything has been in VR that I could find. But I thought that this was really interesting that, despite all of the setbacks that are happening in AR glasses and VR headsets, that people are still pushing and thinking about how AR can be used just on the phone. And so one
Yeah.
of the things that I found that was a really interesting um, retail and marketing design was this Ian Curtis who created a shoe that came up from the phone, and it's made with this web AR, and it's beautiful. I mean, everything actually that this guy is making is just absolutely amazing, but it just goes to show you that we don't really need, like, yes, we're in the future, but we don't need like the most cutting edge headset technology to really do some remarkable things. And so, I just laughed to myself that I feel like I'm 70% more likely to buy anything if it is coming up from my phone like a artifact, like an ancient artifact from a cauldron or something. I mean, like there's people can, like, if we focus on just where we are right now, like where we are right now is we know that we can do AR with the phone. And people start investing their time in AR, and I know that people are on the AI bandwagon because it's so easily accessible, but we don't have to be too discouraged with the setbacks, because I mean this is incredible. It's beautiful. And the other thing, um, similarly from the AR world, that I've been seeing a lot of people painting and creating these beautiful environments that you do have to have a headset. But I mean, thinking about AR as kind of where we are, and landing there and being okay to land there seems like where my head's at right now, with if choosing between VR and AR. I'm okay with landing on AR and experimenting on my phone. And then the other really awesome thing that I found this week was, I don't know if you guys have had a chance to mess with it yet, but it's Runway ML. I assume it's runway machine learning. And so they've got very similar to OpenAI and its ability to incorporate DALL-E 2. And they have I forget what DALL-E 2's like open experiment is you can upload imagery and create instead of the straight DALL-E 2, which you do a text to image. But all of these, it's a mix between text to image, and as well as you have frame interpolation, you have background mixing or background removal, you can generate 3D textures, you can turn any of your videos into slow-mo. So it's some of these big things that, as a designer for the last 10 years, it's like killing myself removing backgrounds, and killing myself trying to export these alpha mats, and adding a green screen. And it's like, when I stumbled upon this, actually somebody referred me to this, and it was one of Karen X's partners that she had been working with. He had forwarded this link on to me, that within probably the last 2 years, we've seen AI tools come out that have been amazing, but super processor intensive. This week I was trying to get Dane to work, that depth awareness interpolation, that is able to add frames into a pre-existing video. And my computer kept crashing. And so the guy said, hey, have you checked this out? And anybody can use this. You don't have to have a supercomputer with an amazing GPU and like massive hard drive. You click it, and it's just unbelievably powerful. And so one of the things that I was messing around with was using DALL-E 2 to change out this model's her clothing. And then I brought all of those different photos that DALL-E had swapped out her clothing and brought it into Runway, and then used frame interpolation. And all I did was drop all of the different photos, and it smoothly and easily within seconds made that video and morphed them from one to the other. And attempting to do that same thing in Dane both crashed my computer for hours, and I was butting my head up against the wall, and it wasn't nearly as smooth. And so it's just amazing to see, from Dane, which came out, I think, in 2020, to now we're in 2023. And I don't know how many people have used Canva or, something similar, but it's like the tools that have been incorporated with such an easy user interface is just unbelievable. So I was really excited to see this. And I hope that anybody who's watching gets a chance to mess around with it, because it's both fun and simple. And I think that's one of the things that I keep coming back to over and over and over, especially in the last week, which is that we're seeing these big drops, because yes, the technology is more affordable, but it's not necessarily easy. It's not easily accessible. And what you can do once you get this headset, you don't have a ton of great options. The people who are benefiting the most from VR right now are people like, I saw an article that like 100 different police forces were offered this training to be able to use better judgment in cases of emergency, and these big conferences where these big heads of these Fortune 500 companies coming together and learning more about VR. Like, that makes sense. It makes sense for businesses to be using this. It makes sense for training, but for just the average Molly, Joe, and Jesse, when they get these headsets, there's just not a lot that they can do with it. And but with AI, there's so few barriers to entry that it feels like that's why we're seeing so much more of it right now. I don't know, what do you guys think about that?
I do a lot of image processing work, and there's the tools that have come out recently to do AI-based stuff have been better than anything else I've used before. So there's been some dramatic improvements. That was another thing, I guess, this week is, well, Google's under a lot of fire right now. And one thing is, there's this sort of assault based on ChatGPT and whether they're going to whether Google can match that. And, Microsoft is spending billions of dollars on ChatGPT. And the other thing is Google is facing antitrust concerns now. And President Biden came out and said that he wants to divest them of their advertising business. But Google is an advertising company. Alphabet is an advertising company. That's how they monetize their search. So if you take that away, I don't know how the search company exists. So anyways, that's more, but I think you're right. There's so many things coming out so quickly right now. There's going to be a limit to how far you can go with all this stuff, but there is this enormous burst coming out right now.
Are you ready for me to stop screen sharing and you can take over?
Yeah, sure. I can, yeah, today I was like pretty much doing the streaming, and I think so far all the streaming was not really working, but anyway, we have a recording, so it should be fine. Today it's just the sound is not getting in. Sometimes the technology has a lot of issues. Okay, so let me share with you something that I find this week that I find interesting. Okay, it's kind of like a generative AI. So it's on time. It's called artificial imagination. So what DALL-E is using OpenAI as a resource. DALL-E 2 is a new AI system that can create realistic images and art from a description in natural language. For example, if I want to say, hey, astronaut riding unicorn, I don't know, something like that. For example, you just say it, right? Or can create original realistic images that and art from a text. Oh, sorry, it's text. It's not even verbal. It's text description. So you need to type it, right? It's like ChatGPT, but for generate images. It can combine concepts, attributes, and styles. So for example, if you type an astronaut, teddy bear, a bowl of a soup, not even the English, and it will generate something, right? Or ride a horse, right? Something. And a photorealistic style in for example, if I kind of do that. So for example, this is an astronaut riding a horse in a photorealistic style, and it will generate this, right? So for example, if I say teddy bears mix sparkling chemicals as mad scientists as a 1990s Saturday morning cartoon. Yeah, and it will come up with, not only styles, but also this, right? And it has some different options. I saw on LinkedIn that it seems like ChatGPT is your secret-free employee. So it will kind of do all the work for you. And what I'm thinking is that you see like each image is right. Just think about artists. How long it takes an artist, trained artist to just draw this versus you just type teddy bears mix sparkling chemicals as mad scientists as a 1990 Saturday morning cartoon, right? Let's see, a bowl of soup, right? And if you didn't see my screen, that looks like a monster. A bowl of a soup that looks like a monster made out of plastics. Wow. So pretty much you can come up with a lot of styles just by typing something that, For example, like the second example is that it can expand images beyond what's in the original canvas, create expansive new composition. So, for example, if you want this to expand, right, it will start generate stuff according to the original image, start creating the entire background. So think about level design, right? Like game design, right? This is just 2D, but in the future, it will be 3D, right? For example, 2D and 3D. And then, as long as you can say something, think of something, you can pretty much generate the entire world without like years of professional training or hire somebody to do it. how powerful it is. And another one is DALL-E 2 can make realistic edits to existing images from a natural language caption. You can add and remove elements while taking shadows, reflections, and the textures into account. So take a look at this, right? You see, it will select a location and add a flamingo. So you see, this is not really natural, right? Or it will learn where to put things, right? So for example, flamingo, right? Or you see here, right? It will add a dog, right? So it will start learning the image and start putting things in, yeah, in a very interesting areas that you want, right? For example, you can put, let's say, original image edits, right? Oh, I want to put, I don't know, a sofa, right? And then I want to put a sofa here, right? And it will start putting a lot of different things. And long time ago, I remember in VR, you can erase, or in AR, you can erase your existing furniture in your house, and then you re-put it. So it's very interesting. DALL-E 2 can also take an image and create different variations of it's inspired by the original. So, for example, like art student, right? Sometimes, long time ago when I was studying fine art in my university, we have a lot of like, for example, you use different styles to paint this one, right? Right now, AI can do things and with different angles. Yeah. So just think of this takes a long time to train, right? You see, like it has like, yeah, Japanese style, right? Yeah, a lot of different style. And like this, right? And it can become the real one. Yeah. So how does it how everything made? Has learned the relationship between images and text used to describe them. It used a process called diffusion, which starts with a pattern of random dots, gradually alters that pattern towards an image when it recognizes specific aspects of the image. So if you want to see this.
Have you ever seen a polar bear playing bass? Or a robot painted like a Picasso? Didn't think so. DALL-E 2 is a new AI system from OpenAI that can take simple text descriptions like a koala dunking a basketball and turn them into photorealistic images that have never existed before. DALL-E 2 can also realistically edit and retouch photos. Based on a simple natural language description, it can fill in or replace part of an image with AI-generated imagery that blends seamlessly with the original. It's called inpainting. In January 2021, OpenAI introduced DALL-E, a system that could generate images from text, like this avocado armchair. DALL-E 2 takes the technology even further with higher resolution, greater comprehension, and new capabilities, like inpainting. It can even start with an image as an input and create variations with different angles and styles. DALL-E was created by training a neural network on images and their text descriptions. Through deep learning, it not only understands individual objects, like koala bears and motorcycles, but learns from relationships between objects. And when you ask DALL-E for an image of a koala bear riding a motorcycle, it knows how to create that or anything else with a relationship to another object or action. The DALL-E research has three main outcomes. First, it can help people express themselves visually in ways they may not have been able to before. Second, an AI-generated image can tell us a lot about whether the system understands us or is just repeating what it's been taught. Third, DALL-E helps humans understand how AI systems see and understand our world. This is a critical part of developing AI that's useful and safe. The technology is constantly evolving, and DALL-E 2 has limitations. If it's taught with images that are incorrectly labeled, like a plane labeled car, and a user tries to generate a car, DALL-E may create a plane. It's like talking to a person who learned the wrong word for something. DALL-E can also be limited by gaps in its training. If you type baboon and DALL-E has learned what a baboon is through images and accurate labels, it will generate a lot of great baboons. But if you type howler monkey and it hasn't learned what a howler monkey is, DALL-E will give you its best idea of what it thinks it could be, like a howling monkey. What's exciting about the approach used to train DALL-E is that it can take what it learned from a variety of other labeled images and then apply it to a new image. Given a picture of a monkey, DALL-E can infer what it would look like doing something it's never done before, like paying its taxes while wearing a funny hat. DALL-E is an example of how imaginative humans and clever systems can work together to make new things, amplifying our creative potential.
So pretty much, I think this is a very, very interesting one, and pretty soon that we will have something maybe 3D, right? And I was thinking about, wow, then, you see, like artists, I feel sad that artists long time ago, we are really confident about, being an artist like a long time ago, but oh, we will never be replaced by machine because we are creative, right? Machine couldn't think. Machine's not creative. But now, yeah, this one is being replaced. And a lot of right now you see like a layoff, right? Silicon Valley layoff, and a lot of engineers. I think because sometimes if you create AI or something, a really advanced code, they can just operate on its own, and it will reduce a lot of, you see, engineer, pretty much if you know how to do programming, you will have a really good life for the rest of your life. Pretty much 10 years ago, we all believe that, but now AI is like doing that. So what, I don't know. So it just strikes me that, yeah, what human can do, or just lazy laying there and have all the robot being our slaves. Yeah. Anyway, any thoughts, comments?
Well, somebody has to know how to do the programming to make these things in the first place. And I haven't heard of any of these systems yet that created a new version of themselves. So there's some jobs there. But
some jobs there.
It does bring up the question of, if you're a consultant that does the stuff that these programs do for you, then how do you preserve your work? So that's a big issue. And also there's a legal issue of, if these programs are spitting out your content that you posted on a website that you created yourself, is there a copyright violation? So that's an issue which has not been very well resolved yet. So that can happen if you've painted an image that it's using, or if it's spitting out code that you generated and that you put online. If somebody incorporates that code in their project, does that leave them legally vulnerable? And there is some question about that right now. So it's very interesting, very interesting.
Think about all the games, right? And generate by AI. And actually the newsletter, Kyle, you just mentioned you like the newsletter, right? The writing, the entire writing was written by ChatGPT.
Yeah. Oh,
Our team,
yes.
like the designer put our URL and want a ChatGPT to generate a newsletter. Yeah.
Everyone's using it now at work. And
Wow, you like it, right? I didn't mention because I was
getting
busy.
used to it, sort of.
Yeah.
But the guys at
ChatGPT,
work like it.
my secret employee number 11. Yeah. So so it is very interesting, and especially in in metaverse, or virtual world. And the another news was not here, but when I was listening to Apple News or something, it seems like Bill Gates is using one of his investment company to buy a lot of farms in United States, and he's the largest farm owner right now in United States secretly. And people was like, oh, while everyone is interested in creating virtual world, the true rich people are buying the real world. Yeah, and he bought a lot of farm. People was like, oh, are you trying to predict? Because everyone, have a lot of thoughts about Bill Gates, right? Yeah, so some people suspicious that, oh, maybe Bill Gates wants to, in the future, we will have too many people and not enough food. So he will be rich again just because he dominant all the farms, right? And another part of people kind of think that the conspiracy theory thinks that he wants to, because he invests a lot of biotech, which using farm or planets to generate energy. I think that might make sense, right? For example, if you have farms, you can definitely generate food and also energy. Wow. And you see, while we are trying to, play around with all the pictures, and then the real rich people, they are dominant the real world assets. Anyway, so that's my interesting observation this week.
Well, one of the potential perils of climate change is that farmers are going to have a harder time growing their crops. So has anybody asked him what he's doing with all these farms?
I think those two. One is getting all the, and you see, farm is probably the cheapest places, right? And in the future, if there are floods or something, because coast near ocean is always the richest area, right? But when the sea level raise, right, the place that is not so popular will be more expensive because every expensive place will be underwater.
But one of the problems with climate change is there's something called the global ocean conveyor, which is an ocean current that travels around the world. So if you go out to the ocean and drop a drop of water into the ocean, that drop of water will come back to you in about 2,000 years through this global ocean conveyor. And the engine that drives it are the ice caps at the poles of the planet. And so as those melt, that global ocean conveyor is degrading. Now, one of the properties of that conveyor is that it helps to regulate climate around the planet. And it's the thing that allows us to predict from one year to the next where a particular crop will grow. So if we lose that, then we lose that ability to do agriculture anymore. And roughly 10,000 years ago, roughly 13,000 years ago, we lost that global ocean conveyor. And so humans had just started to progress and form agriculture, but then we lost that global ocean conveyor 13,000 years ago. And it was due to basically an ice dam that broke in the North American continent. And when that global ocean conveyor went away, it went away for about 3,000 years. And it reestablished itself about 10,000 years ago. And then humans were able to establish agriculture again. And once you establish agriculture, then people can specialize in their occupations, and then you can develop a technological civilization. So if we lose that conveyor, and there are signs that we are losing it due to climate change, then that's sort of an extinction event for mankind. So if you're a farmer, you might be out of business. So anyways, it's an interesting issue.
So Bill Gates is flipping a coin right now.
Maybe, or maybe he's just got plans for something else.
He just has too much money he has to spend. Yeah, and another thing is that I think, yeah, we probably need to, terraforming other planet, occupy other planet. So yeah, if the Earth mess up.
We've got Elon Musk working on that one.
Thank
you, Elon. We appreciate your efforts. I just saw a quote that he's using all of his money. Like, the reason why he is investing the way he is and building the way he is because he wants to preserve humanity's spark, or humanity's conscious spark, something along those lines. And so he is attempting to move that onto, right now he thinks, Mars. And if that's not a viable option, hopefully in his lifetime, because that was in our lifetime, then we we'd figure out another place to go. But that's it's interesting to see that, you know, these big projects are really happening because they have to, you know. I mean, and thank goodness that he's there to spearhead something that tremendous, because it's not me. Like, I'm not the one to spearhead preserving humanity's spark and figuring out how to terraform another planet, right? And I recognize my limitations, and I will work within them.
Good luck getting 6 billion people onto a spaceship. You know, that's one of the problems. Also with Mars, even if you do generate an atmosphere, the problem is Mars does not have a strong magnetic field, and that's because its core cooled much earlier than the.
Then we need to live on the spaceship that keeps spinning. So there's gravity, right?
Yeah, well, there's gravity on Mars, but the magnetic field is just not there. And so when the sun blasts out, you know, material in solar storms, it just blows away Mars's atmosphere. And that's what happened. That's why it has no atmosphere, because it doesn't have the magnetic shield like we have around the Earth. And that's because it's core cool. So even if you generate an atmosphere good on Mars, good luck on trying to keep it, because the sun is working against you in that regard. So transplanting all of us to another planet is quite a task.
Yeah, and I also listened to Apple News. It seems like there's a way, like one of the Silicon Valley startup founder, after he sold his startups, he start figuring out how to rejuvenate himself by having like a 30-something doctors, and every day he was like, you know, like a fasting, or, you know, doing exact calorie, like a very like monitor his, you know, entire body, exercise, food. And he is now 45 years old, but his muscle is like I don't know, 26. His skin is 28. Yeah, so by monitoring your behavior or your routine, you can rejuvenate yourself. And also a lot of company or super rich people, they are kind of do a lot of research about how to rejuvenate yourself. So in the future, maybe we will have the chance to go to Mars. You know, maybe we can live like a few hundred years and we still look really young, and no new human will come out. We just, you know, because too many people. And I remember, I don't know who said that, Elon Musk said that in the future, robot will be more than human. It's it's just too many of stuff, right? I don't know. Yeah.
There's a book called The Singularity, which talks about us sort of merging with machines.
I'm listening to Singularity, that audiobook now. Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah.
One of the limitations is we have these things on our DNA called telomeres. And every time a cell reproduces, the resulting reproduced cells have shorter telomeres. And once those telomeres run out, the cell stops reproducing. And so that's sort of one of the limitations as you get older, is that your cells run out of telomeres, and therefore you're unable to regenerate cells that die. Now, there's a way to thwart that, and it's a chemical compound called telomerase that restores those telomeres so that your cells can then duplicate again. The problem is this whole telomere mechanism appears to be a way to stop cancer, so that if you get cells that sort of run away and start reproducing in an uncontrolled fashion, the telomeres put a halt to that at some point. But cancer often generates telomerase so that the cells then can reproduce more and more and go out of control. So there's a trade-off between between vitality and cancer. And so that's one of those sort of fundamental limitations of a lot of these things.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's very interesting. And yesterday I was watching Discovery channel, and there was an episode talking about Pluto. We all think Pluto is a little ice cream floating over there, right? It's a little ice, little rounded ice. But actually, scientists, because it took 9 years for the satellites to fly over there and to do the investigation, and they took like after 9 years, they fly there and took some photos and come back, and they start observing all the pictures, and scientists did a lot of really interesting analysis, which first actually you see like Pluto was covered by ice, right? But inside there is water under the ice. Why? Because there's nitrogen and ammonia, nitrogen will kind of like make the frozen point even lower. So it's minus 18 degrees. I don't know, I forgot the number. But imagine if the frozen point under the ice is lower than 0, right? Which means that under that, it still have a liquid ice inside. And there was gas, it's called methane or something. It's like a gas inside the center of Pluto. So something very similar to volcano, but it's shooting ice. It's very interesting. And according to NASA scientists, they predict hypothesis there might be some aliens or some lives in Pluto, just because there's water, there's a little sunlight, because you see vent pool CO2 can kind of track the light. So actually inside Pluto, there are some lights kind of very vague over there, and there's water, there's nitrogen, there's like a methane or something. Yes, some gas. So that all the components there, and it still need to take another 9 years for another spaceship to go there and get more samples. But people start thinking about actually, and in Greek, Pluto is the name of the afterworld, right? But maybe there are some little things over there, and we don't even know what creature looks like. Yeah.
Well, everywhere just about that you look on Earth, there's life, even in the volcanic vents at the bottom of the ocean. And so it's conceivable that there's life in all kinds of strange places that we're not used to knowing about.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Any other news you want to share? Cool. Yeah, this is a wonderful week. And I think long time ago, I started this weekly news, and now everything becomes like very open-ended. Before I thought like, oh, AR, VR, MR, right? More games, more AR, VR games, right? All those fun stuff, or enterprise training. But now when AI jump in, and when cryptocurrency, Web3 jump in, and then all those interesting stuff jump in, yeah, I think the world opens another possibilities. COVID jump in, right? A lot of things happens. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us today, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.